my sweet Karen looks my mother in the eye, right there in the eyes, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, chickens are one of our gods in Nicaragua." And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never asked her about what gods they worship in Nicaragua, right?
And then I go and grab the spoon, and then I put it on my plate, and everyone's like, no, like that's the chicken.
No, God! No, God, please, no, no!
And I'm like, I was kidding.
Our crazy story of how we met. We get asked this, I think, more than anything, and it's actually, I don't know, I feel like it's a cool, stinking story of people doing stupid junk that showcases that God, I think, has a way better plan than what we do sometimes. And so, okay, so before we met, like the day before we met, what were you doing? Where were you at?
So I was back in Nicaragua. I had just graduated from the university in the U.S. that I got a scholarship to. I was required to be there for 4 years, and then when I graduated, to go back to my country to get back. So this was, I think that was October when we met, and I had just graduated in May. So it's just my first job, just getting started, my life back in Latam.
Making, basic money.
With the lowest salary that you can
chilling
expect.
like a villain, right? And so I was in business. I was already graduated a couple years. We both went to Harding together. Okay, we never met at Harding. Okay, so I think that's, if we're just trying to rush the story, people ask us like, yeah, we met at university, and then it's easy. But you're getting the 10-minute plan here. Okay, it's a crazy story.
Which is crazy, yeah.
Okay, so I was doing, I worked in banking all through college. So I started when I was just turned 18, actually right before I turned 18 at Regions Bank. So when we met, I was still at the bank, right?
You were still at the bank, and the reason
only for 2 or 3 weeks.
But the reason why we met is because you were getting started in the other business.
And the other thing. Yeah. And so working at the bank full time, I was working in the bank. So I was 6 years there. We met when I was, I think, 24. Yeah. And then I had also built a real estate portfolio. Yeah. And that's a crazy story for another day. But when we met, I had about 52 houses. I had a Cessna airplane. I had a custom Harley Davidson. I was living outside of Nashville at a 3,000 square foot home. I mean, not only was I good looking, but I had it going on. And that was a joke, by the way. And so the 3,000 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, had a music room. I'm just trying to give you a picture of what she married into, because it's not what she got. It's, these salespeople out there. We're really good at sales,
very
but then
scammy.
Does it actually, am I actually giving you what I sold you? So here I'm selling her into this, right? So I was at, doing in all things. So I was, and then I had the tech ed company. So I had a tech ed company as well. So I was wanting to quit the bank, and I was going to start this tech ed, which is stupid. I had a terrible school career. So the tech ed company was going to be teaching English online, which I took English 3 times in Harding before I passed the class. A shout out to all my English teachers. And so I wanted to do this tech ed company, so I started traveling. All right, so we're getting to where we meet, just laying some backstory. So went to Guatemala, Salvador, Ecuador, went to Chile, went to Panama, Costa Rica. I was traveling all over for the sake of trying to put together this company, because I knew I wanted to put an office and start hiring people in LATAM.
And you had not been to Nicaragua.
Never been to LATAM. Yeah. So I reached out to the university and was like, hey, who do we know in Nicaragua that maybe graduated around me? And they gave me 2 names, a guy and a girl. I wrote the girl. So we met online. Hello? Crazy people meeting online. So we actually met online.
Yeah, we started. So he messaged me.
You.
And I was like, this is weird. Let me just ask around.
What an idiot.
Who knows this person? We had some friends in common, so I was like, okay, let's go and let's...
Strictly business.
Yeah, strictly business. Let's start talking on Skype back in the day, which
was she
very
hot?
funny.
Of course I knew she was hot, but...
So we started talking, just business stuff. I had never met him in my life, so it was just getting to know him. And we started talking at 7 p.m. on a Thursday. And we stopped talking at 7 a.m. the next day.
12 hours nonstop talking.
Which was insane. It was so crazy that my dad called me the next day. Because the next day I stopped talking to him, and I still had to go to work.
No sleeping that night.
And so I didn't sleep at all. Back in the day I could do that. not right now. But I remember my dad calling me and asking me like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Like, I just heard you like talking over the phone the whole night. Is something wrong?" Like he just thought something was wrong for sure. And no, we just like started connecting, and it was pretty crazy. I think we talked about every single topic that we could have talked.
The next morning, I went to the bank again. I think it was something like last month or a couple weeks at working at the bank, and I remember BJ, one of my friends, came to the office that day, and I told her about this, and I'm like, I'm gonna marry this girl, and I am not that kind of guy. Like I'm not a like love at first sight. That's just not me at all. And
Talk about closing.
So I am. If you want to learn sales, we can. I'm a really good closer because here's the deal. Here's the next part of the story. Within 24 hours of that call, she broke up with her boyfriend of 4 years.
Okay. Here's a big asterisk. So
No asterisk is needed.
Yes,
It was such a great call, and I'm such a great closer
Oh my God.
that you broke up with him at 4 years.
4 years I was dating, and it was just the relationship had lived
Was
enough.
incredible, but I'm such a good salesperson.
There you go.
I'm joking.
Okay.
It wasn't. Obviously, there was a lot of problems in
Yeah.
that relationship, and God had a bigger plan. So within a week of that call, I'm in Nicaragua, essentially. Like I buy a flight, a lot of flexibility. And so I come down, and I start coming down every like 2 or 3 weeks. I quit the job at the bank, so now I just have real estate that I'm living off of, and then the side hustle dream project that I'm invested in. And we're coming back every other 2 weeks. We're spending time together, all this stuff. Within 6 months, I propose.
Yes.
Nice.
But there's a story before that, and I think is super funny. So I don't know, a month, 2 months after we
like 3
physically
months.
met for the first time, you're coming back to the U.S. and I'm going to take you to my parents' home, right? I'm going to meet the parents, right? So we go in, and so I'm from the South. My family is from the city where Harding is. So the place where we went to university together, I was born in. So anyone who works at the university that might know Karen, my parents kind of know as well. So there was already some like connection there. We go in, and we get in at like 3 or 4 o'clock one day. And, in the South, we make dinner for each other. So my mom was cooking dinner for all of us. And I remember we were sitting there on the couch. And I have a very my family watched this video, so I won't say too much about it. But very basic, just
It was just
relaxed
Arkansas,
family, especially back then.
Yeah.
Arkansas, good old traditional family.
Hosting
we
is,
didn't have a TV in the house, at least when I was growing up. I mean, we did, but it had like
And
3
here
channels.
it was just like
very basic.
brown self coming.
So Karen and my dad and me are sitting in the living room, and my sweet mom comes in, and she goes, "Hey, Karen, okay, I'm so excited about dinner." Whatever she said. She's like, "We made a chicken casserole, and also I made some green beans and all this type of stuff." And my sweet Karen looks my mother in the eye. And I mean, just with the most whatever, just right there in the eyes. And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, chickens are one of our gods in Nicaragua. I'm sorry." And then just doesn't say anything. I'm like,
one of the highlights of my life.
She doesn't say anything. Like Sarah just okay. And just walks away. Karen doesn't say anything.
And not even to him. Like I didn't wink at him, nothing.
And here I am. Another disappointment in my family, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never asked her about what gods they worship in Nicaragua, right? I'm like, oh my goodness.
So
and
we sit down, and then I just go and grab the spoon to get the
an
chicken.
hour later, 30 minutes later,
30 minutes. And then
I'm
I go
sweating.
and grab the spoon, and then I put it on my plate, and everyone's like, no, that's the chicken. I'm like, I was kidding, and everybody's just like, oh, the colors went back to their bodies, and just, this isn't the craziest. But that's how little we knew about each other, that, he hesitated, is this true?
So looking back, right, so we get engaged a month or 2 months after that, right? Within 6 months of meeting each other, a foreign woman in a foreign land, we met online, we probably were in person 20 times, 10 times if we're lucky. Yeah. And here we are getting engaged.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I'm looking now. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I'm like, if my daughter does what we did,
Olivia, if you're watching this, don't do that.
I would be pissed. I would be like, what the junk are you thinking? You're so... And so like, I think this is one of those parts in our story where like, I think God just blinds us. And is like, all right, if they actually think about this, they're going to realize how stupid this is. And I have a plan and I'm just going to blind them and we're just going to go with it, right?
Crazy.
And so here we are, we get engaged. I move after we got engaged to Nicaragua. We get a little small home just down from your parents' home. And
because keep in mind, I had to be in Nicaragua for at least
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
And so, and we have the real estate. That's pretty much paying for everything. It's not making a ton of money, but like it's making cash flowing and doing its thing, and we're paying off debt. And then we have the tech get started up.
Yeah.
And this is where crap goes wrong for the first big time. We started screwing up in real estate. I hired a management company. I just kind of just handed it over to them thinking like everything was going to be great. I was mismanaging. You know, I was using all the funds that we were profiting and not saving properly. I was a young person who thought I knew everything that was completely wrong and off. And about 4 months before our wedding, it started getting kind of bad. We had several houses that were trying to kick out tenants that weren't paying, and they were destroying the homes. And then they would, like, one would leave the home and had to spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to get the home ready to rent again. And it was just this like chaotic, like a factory had went under in that town, which made it worse. And like, it was just a really crappy situation.
And at that point, because our relationship was so new as well, it's not like we were just chatting about this and communicating and me helping in the things that, you know, like I'm more detail oriented. Like we just didn't know each other like that well, which was very interesting. So like, it just sort of like what's happening. And
so here we are trying to pay for a wedding. We didn't have a lot of money. We're like spending out, like where do we, and thank God, like my granddad was nice enough, gracious enough to give us a loan that we were, actually I think we're still paying it back, right? It's kind of a reminder of where we came from. And we were able to get rid of all the real estate, not declaring bankruptcy or anything. We then moved into the maid's quarters.
Yeah.
The maid's quarters of her dad's house, not a bedroom, like the maid's quarters of her bedroom, of her dad's house. So a third world country, the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and we're living in the maid's quarters.
Which, to give you an idea, is like a twin-size bed and a toilet and a shower, right? Like it's the tiniest thing.
We had a tiny fridge and a microwave, I think.
Yes, we did.
And like, imagine your first year of marriage, sleeping on a twin-size bed where you can see the toilet around the, like, that was the first year.
I don't think we ever, even through that time, we never really, I mean, we knew that this is not ideal, but honestly, we were just going
working
through it. Yeah.
Making it happen, pushing. I never remember us complaining or being frustrated. Where was our date night? So like maybe once a month if things went really well.
So if we were splurging, we would go to the gas station to get some like chicken tenders. And that was like...
They were really good chicken tenders.
Yeah, that was like, okay, we are living the life here. But most of the time it was whatever was at the house or, you know, just like pupusas. Like that's one of the things that we ate a lot.
So I think like a lot of entrepreneurial families, like one of the biggest things that we had from our start was one, we did build everything from the beginning together, right? Number two, when we were launching our first business, which it didn't end up making it, but the tech ed company, every dollar we made was into the tech company, right? Like we were growing it, we were increasing revenue, but it was costing so much to build and scale. We ended up closing that business down later on. We were doing great, partnered with IBM. We were doing some crazy junk.
Yeah.
Okay. And so here we are, we get married. Karen's got a decent, a good job and kind of moves up the ladder there. But then you get an offer to go work for this really cool agency.
So that's how we sort of like went into the digital marketing side. I got a job as a sales coordinator at that point. I didn't know anything about marketing, but I was very organized. I just like enjoyed making order out of chaos type of thing. And so I started working there, and then JC would come and pick me up every day. And so you met the owners. Then we went
out to eat several times.
Yeah.
They're cool people.
I offered him a job first, then with a little bit of equity. And so he was working on the service side, and I was working on the sales side. So we got to see
Just to clarify there. So they were hunting me for, they offered several jobs. And then finally we went in. I took the position. We had equity in the company. You were leading all of sales ops and sales. I was on the service and more the product side. Right?
Yeah. And it was one of the best experiences I think we would have gotten in life, just because it allowed us to see from an employee like just like how do you run a business, like what experiences you're giving your teammates from leadership as well, like what does it look like to be a leader in a company. The growth was massive. Honestly, it was just one of those things. It was kind of like having Google in Nicaragua. It was insane. Like
we're in the Inc. 1000 list like 7 years in a row.
It opened so many opportunities, I think, for everybody's mind to like, this is what's possible in a third world country.
In fact, Google was giving us like they every Super Bowl we had tickets to, every World Cup, they gave us Olympics tickets.
It was pretty crazy.
It was insane.
But we got pregnant.
Well, and let's give a little bit more context to the place as well. So, so we're in our 20s. The other owners are in their 20s. We've got a ridiculously fast-growing business. We have 350 employees. People are making stupid amounts of money. I mean, like stupid money. We are very faith-based. Everything we do is faith-based. The other 3 owners were not people of faith, right? And so one of the things I learned young was that you can't expect people that don't have faith to do things that people with faith do. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? And so even though it was a cool work culture, we weren't aligned on values. And so, and I mean, some of the stuff is just super cool, but like.
So when we got pregnant, it was one of those times where like we had to make a decision of like, what do you want to see for kind of like the rest of your life? I don't know if it happens to everybody, but it happened to us. Like, okay, where do we see ourselves going? And we were not aligned in values, and we felt that we were called to do something different. So we actually exited the business, and we
were able to exit where we exchanged our equity in exchange for our non-compete. So we could do whatever we want, but we were 3 months away from having our first child with no salary, no paycheck, no insurance.
Nothing.
Not a lot of savings.
And starting from scratch. I got a job as a Salesforce admin, so I started helping other people with their operations. While I was like working on like getting the systems for the agency, and you were focusing on getting clients and getting the first teammates.
But we wanted to do it different, right? And so without going into a lot of the value differences, right? But like in the new business, I wanted a place that my daughter could come into, 5, 3, 2, 10, 20, and like would be great around the people that we were working with, right? I wanted a culture that was family focused and faith-based, right? And that's what we started to do. We ended up hiring several people from that other organization that kind of had the same values we did and bringing them over. And we very quickly grew in this values-based environment, right? Every single kid at Height is on scholarship to this day. We're remote now, but up until a year ago, we had an
office with a nursery in
nursery
place.
Right there. In fact, the nursery was by my office. I like playing with the kids more than I did the real people or the adults.
That sounds weird. Our daughter was there. So
you know what I mean.
So she would come.
I don't mean in a weird way. They're just a lot easier going and they're happy more often. Anyways, and we grew this thing, right? And so, but the point of the story that I think is kind of like key for us, that I want people to follow, right? We started over fully twice. We went up, down, and I mean, we screwed up so much it's not even funny. But we were always together. We were always pressing through, and we focused on surrounding ourselves with the right people gave us the ability to overcome. The second thing is that sometimes I assume that people looking at our story in the moment was like, they're idiots. Like,
Probably,
what in the world are you marrying this white guy from Arkansas that knows nothing, I'm sure people are like, you're thinking about marrying this guy and he's broke as all get out here a couple months from your wedding. But I think God sometimes, again, blinds us from these great opportunities in our life and pushes us down these paths of like, okay, again, if they see the logic in this, they're probably going to back out, right? How often is God working in our lives we don't even realize it? That if we take an outside approach, we don't even see what's happening, right? And so in our entrepreneurial journey, a big part of this has been we're together, ups, downs, and I think even us now as entrepreneurs, I'm not afraid. I have kids now, so maybe going back to the maid's quarters would suck a little bit. I'm not afraid of it. We've been there. It wasn't that bad. In fact, life was a lot easier. I remember us watching like TV on the little, we had a little bitty TV in that room, right? And just relaxing and chilling, right? And so by having these experiences of really tough times as a unit, it creates human beings that aren't afraid to go back there. And it creates more realizations to what the opportunity is.
Yeah, I think it definitely opened up. I always think of those times as a blessing because it allowed us to see how we would react and how we went through probably one of the lowest times that we've faced so far in our lives, and how we each other reacted through that. And so I think like that's a blessing in our marriage, to be able to like go through those things and obviously come out the other end, you know, the right way, and to be able to build from there on, because that's, now we know, you know, we can go back to that and we will be fine. Obviously we don't want to ever, but it allows you to have that freedom in seeing like anything is possible, first off, because we have experienced lows and we have experienced highs, and you know, we're able to accomplish everything through obviously God and our faith.
That's what the story's about, right? Like, we are focused now, we're committed fully. Like, how do we continue to scale our companies, but with stability? Stability within the organization, like from a financial and a growth standpoint, stability within the families that are supported and represented, you know, giving them a job and a place that supports their visions and missions, stability within our personal home, right? Like managing kids and all these things. And so we hope that this channel, and if you've halfway enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. But I'm hoping this channel allows us to just bring a little bit of hope, insights, and ideas on our journey of scaling with stability. Hope you guys have an incredible day.
See ya.
Ciao.